Good afternoon, it's Teresa. We are back in the garden for the second part of chapter 2 in the Gospel of John. Last week we learned about the woman at the well in Samaria that Jesus met and made such a great change in her life that she went and shared her testimony with everyone in the city that she lived in. And she spoke to many other people, not just in her city of Sychar, but she started a chain reaction in Samaria, which was exactly what Jesus knew was going to happen. And now this week, there is a man that was a government official in Herod's court. This man was Jewish, and he had a son that was very, very sick. Jesus had left Samaria and came back to Galilee. And it says that he was saying that a prophet is not honored in his own hometown. Yet the Galileans welcomed him. He was from Nazareth, and that was in Galilee, but this time the people were welcoming him. They had been in Jerusalem at Passover celebration and had seen everything that he did there. And miracles get people's attention. And Jesus knew that those miracles is why the people were talking about Jesus. There was a lot of Greek philosophy that was in the region of Galilee. And Greek philosophy says if something is new, if something is different, they wanted to talk about it. They wanted to hash it out. They wanted to do every conversation they possibly could. But when it came to Jesus, they didn't have answers. And that's what Greek philosophy did, is it brought up answers. But these people couldn't understand how Jesus was doing what he did. So it was a definite act of God that Jesus was displaying because he was God himself. And that is the theme through John. He wants very much to show people that Jesus is God. He was God incarnate. So when Jesus came through Galilee, he came to Cana. Remember, that was the place where he did his first miracle. And he's fixing to do his second miracle here, both of them in the town of Cana. Remember, he had turned the water into wine in Cana, and there was this government official I was telling you about who lived actually in Capernaum, which was miles away. And he had heard that Jesus had come from Judea to Galilee, and he went and begged Jesus to come to Capernaum to heal his son, who was about to die. And Jesus said, "Will you never believe in me unless you see miraculous signs and wonders?" So this man is coming to Jesus and saying, "Would you please come to Capernaum and heal my son?" And Jesus doesn't answer him. He just asked the man a question. Will anyone never believe in me unless they see signs and wonders? This man was humbling himself before Jesus. In Capernaum, he knew that Jesus was from Nazareth and Jesus was a carpenter. This man was a high-ranking official, probably a lower king under Herod. So he was humbling himself, coming to a carpenter to ask for help. But he had heard so many things about Jesus's healings, and he wanted to take advantage of this and hopefully have his son be healed at the same time. The official pleaded, "Lord, please come now before my little boy dies." And then Jesus said, "Go back home. Your son will live." That's all he says. He doesn't talk to the man a long time like he did with the woman in the well. He just tells him to go back home. Don't you know that had to be a tremendous act of faith for this man just to turn around and head back to Capernaum? This man showed great faith. He was not too proud to ask who he thought was just a lowly carpenter for help. It's amazing how when we have a family member that is ill, that we don't want to die, what things we will try to help them stay alive. I know that there's a lot of people who have had cancer. I've had clients that had cancer and traveled all the way to Mexico to get treatments that were supposed to heal a person of cancer. There's a lot of times people will have cancer and the doctors will say, we have an experimental treatment. We don't really know how it's going to work, but we know you're going to die one way or the other. Would you like to try it? And people will say, yes, I'll try it. So this government official doesn't give his name. It just says he had a son. He was a father that cared, and he was willing to do anything to humble himself. Even when Jesus said, won't y'all have any faith in me unless you see a miracle or a sign? That was a rebuke that Jesus was giving. But this man handled the rebuke. He did not get discouraged. And this is one thing that Jesus is looking for in us when we are asking him for something. He wants us to earnestly believe in faith. This man had the faith of someone that was drowning. He had no other place to turn. I don't know if he had sought out physicians in his town or not, in Capernaum, but he traveled all the way to Cana because he knew Jesus was heading there, and he wanted to ask Jesus for help. And Jesus gave him this help. Go back home, your son will live. And the man believed what Jesus said and started home. Do you believe what Jesus says that easily? This book is full of things that Jesus has said. Do you believe him? Do you believe him with faith? If you don't, you might ask God to help you have more faith. Jesus is the doorway that we bring our petitions before God the Father. That's the way God wanted it. That's the way God created it. So we know that when we ask the Father for help, we're using that doorway of Jesus. I have a little fly that keeps buzzing around my ear here. Maybe that fly is trying to tell me to encourage y'all to listen to what God has to say to you. When you ask God for help, do you listen for an answer? Do you wait for an answer? Are you someone who, okay, God, I need help with this. I don't hear anything. I don't see anything happening. So I guess God's just not going to help me today. Sometimes it takes time. Jesus was telling this man to go all the way back home to Capernaum. I wonder what this man was thinking as he was on his way back. He didn't even get all the way home. His servants met him on his travel back home, and they said, your son is healed. It says, while the man was on his way, some of his servants met him with the news that his son was alive and well. He asked the servants, what exact time did the boy get better? And they said, yesterday afternoon, about 1 o'clock. His fever suddenly disappeared. So this man had been traveling for a day. I think it takes 3 days to get from Cana to Capernaum. This man was on his way back home. He had already been traveling a day, and they met him with this news. But he knew it was 1 o'clock when he had asked Jesus to help him with his son. Don't you know that he was rejoicing all over the place when the servant said, it was at 1 o'clock yesterday. His fever just automatically disappeared and he got better. He's well. There's nothing wrong with him. The father realized that that was the very time that Jesus had told him, your son will live. We can count on what Jesus says. I was doing some work in my garden, making a new patio, and I never was really good in math. And I was needing to figure out how much potting soil I was going to need to put in this flower bed that I was putting around the patio. And I asked God, I said, how many bags do I need? He said, 10 bags. So I went to the store and I got 10 bags of potting soil. That was exactly the amount of potting soil I needed to put in this flower bed. And then the next day, I had laid out all the bricks and put stepping stones down, and I was needing to go get some pea gravel to put in the places that were needing to be filled in. And I had no idea how much. I took my rake and I was trying to measure out how much it would be according to what I had put down before. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't want to buy more than I need because those things are $5 a bag. And God said, 26 bags. So I went to Ace Hardware and I got 26 bags of pea gravel. It was exactly what I needed. The reason I'm telling you this is because God does care about every little need that you have. Even if you're needing to know how much potting soil or pea gravel is needing to be put down for something that you're creating. If we come to God with the little things and ask for help, He will help us. And then when it comes time that we have bigger things we need help with, we will automatically be in the habit of asking Him for help. I don't know what your needs are. I know God knew what the Samaritan's woman's need was, and God knew what this man's need was before he even came to him. It is humbling to ask people for help. I'm used to doing everything here in my herb gardens all by myself, but I'm getting older. I had an injury to my knees and an injury to my back, and I know I'm supposed to not do certain things like shoveling, digging. So I paid someone to come and help me in my garden. But I prayed and I asked God to bring the right person to help me. And He did. And I got the help that I needed. But I have to tell you, it was humbling to me to ask someone to help me. I don't have a problem asking God to help me with things. And the older I get, the more I learn it's a blessing when I ask God to help me with something. And then I sit back and I see how He's helped me. This man was going to have a testimony that would be shared in all of Herod's court. Because, again, I tell you, he was an official in Herod the king over the Jews' court. But this man got more than he bargained for. When he got home, it says the father had his whole entire household believing in Jesus. So it wasn't just that his son got well, his whole household started believing. And it says this was the second miraculous sign that Jesus did in Galilee after coming from Judea. You started this very second section, or we started this very second section, with Jesus saying a prophet is not recognized in his own hometown, because he had had an experience in Nazareth, where he came from, that people wouldn't see him as anything but a carpenter. But this time he talks about coming into Galilee, and all these people are flocking around him, believing because of everything they had seen him do in Jerusalem, which was what prompted his comment to the Father when the Father asked him to come help the Son. And he said, does not anyone believe unless they see signs and miracles? Do you have to see miraculous signs to believe in Jesus? I have seen miraculous signs. And God knows if that's what it takes to get you to believe, that's what He will bring before you. But I find tremendous delight in the little things each day that happen in my life. I was needing a wheelbarrow. I've had the same wheelbarrow for about 40 years, and it leans to the side, and I'm just about the only one that can work it right, because I know it leans to the left. And when I put things in the wheelbarrow, I have to put the heavier things on the right-hand side. But I was asking God to help me get a new wheelbarrow. The new wheelbarrows they are making these days, they aren't made to last. But today I went to a sale and I got one of the old-time wheelbarrows that will probably last me for the rest of my lifetime. I had purchased several of the newer kinds of wheelbarrows and they just didn't work. So I'm a very happy camper. But I know that God brought me that wheelbarrow. And that might sound kind of crazy to you. This is my testimony. Remember when I said earlier that in the first part of John chapter 4, that woman went back to the town and told everybody her testimony of how Jesus had told her things about her that no one else knew. And they came to see for themselves. And Jesus spent 2 days in Sychar with these people in Samaria, in Sychar, Samaria, witnessing to them, showing them, telling them about God and how God wanted them to live their lives. I share these things with you today because it's part of my testimony. It might sound like a little thing to you. It's not a man getting his son well, but the little things that God does for me each day reinforces me. He cares even about the little things in our lives. So I pray that you also have faith. The essence of faith, and you might not really understand what faith is. I have faith that when I ask God something, that He is going to either give me an answer or give me the patience to wait for His answer, or He's going to show up at the very best time. But I have faith that He will do this because, just like Jesus said, will you only believe when you see signs and miracles? I have seen God work in my life time after time, so I do have faith. And the essence of faith is believing what Jesus says is true. I believe what Jesus says is true because of the miraculous ways, and to me it's a miracle. So many little miracles, not just little miracles. I've had big miracles too, but the little miracles are what shores me up day by day and reminds me God is right here with me. And if I have a need and I humble myself before Him and I ask Him to help me, He does. I ask Him to help me before I do each one of these videos. I don't want to be up here running my mouth, saying stuff just to be talking. I want to make sure that what I'm saying is true, that it comes straight from the Word, that it's not my opinion, but it's what God says to encourage us, to give us more faith. There was one more thing I wanted to say. Wistful thinking or wistful longings just isn't faith. Some people say, well, I hope God does this for me. Yeah, but have you asked Him? Well, I'm hoping everything will turn out okay. Well, have you asked God to give you guidance? See, these things are really important. It's really important that we ask God for help. It's really important that we wait for Him to help. And when He does answer us, for us to believe that what He says is going to happen. Sometimes God might speak to you through His Word. If you're having a need and you open up the Bible and you ask God just to show you encouragement, He can and He will. Sometimes you might ask God for help with something and He gives you that direction or that encouragement through another person. Some people say, well, you say that you hear voices from God in your head. You hear the voice of God. Yes, I do. Many times. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But God has guided me with a voice that I hear inside of me, whether it's in my head or whether it's in my heart. I don't have to be a Greek philosopher and figure it out. These people that were trying to figure out how all these things happened with Jesus, they witnessed miracles and then they believed. There's a passage in the Bible where Jesus says, you know, these people that are seeing these miracles, it's good that they believe. But even more blessed than that are those who believe and have not seen me or seen the miracles that I have done. So, my prayer for you today is that you have faith. Faith that is so strong that when you get a word from God, you believe it no matter what. That you're not ashamed what other people think, what other people say about you. You have your relationship with God, and that be the most precious thing in your life. That's how God can take care of your needs. This was a short lesson today. Last week was Easter. I don't know when you're going to be watching this video or not, but the resurrection that Jesus went through gives us hope that there will be resurrection for us. Not just when we die, but in any situation that you're in. Don't be afraid or ashamed or too proud to ask God to help you, because your help is just a question to Him away. An answer will be coming soon. You can count on that. Take care. I will see you next week again in the garden for chapter 5 of the Gospel of John.